Imagine this: one apple pie, a group of awkward teenagers, and a movie that studios were terrified would never make it to theaters. In 1999, American Pie wasn't just another raunchy teen comedy, it was the film that shocked Hollywood, redefined an entire genre, and created a billion-dollar franchise from the most ridiculous premise ever put on screen. You remember the moment: Jim alone in the kitchen, the infamous pie scene that had parents gasping, critics clutching their pearls, and teenagers around the world laughing until they cried. But what if I told you that this scene almost never made it into the movie, or that one of the film's breakout stars was only paid $8,000, or that the awkward dad who became a fan favorite was actually improvising half of his lines? Behind the laughter, the crude jokes, and the band camp stories, American Pie was pure chaos. Actors embarrassed out of their minds, studio executives panicking over censorship, and a production team racing against time with a shoestring budget. Nobody expected it to work. And yet, somehow, it didn't just work. It exploded into a cultural phenomenon. Over the next few minutes, we're going to peel back the layers of this outrageous teen comedy and reveal 20 weird, shocking, and downright unbelievable facts about American Pie. From secrets on set to scandals off camera, these are the stories that will change the way you see the movie forever. The scene that gave the movie its name, the infamous moment when Jim gets caught in the kitchen with a freshly baked apple pie, was almost too much for the studio.
Jim?
Executives were convinced audiences would walk out in disgust, not laughter. Early test screenings even had people gasping out loud. But here's the twist: those same test audiences couldn't stop talking about it afterward. The pie scene went from being a potential disaster to becoming the film's most iconic moment. The very image burned into pop culture. Without it, American Pie might have been just another forgettable teen comedy. It's hard to imagine American Pie without Steve Stifler, the foul-mouthed, overconfident jock who stole every scene. But here's the shocker: Sean William Scott, the actor who brought Stifler to life, was only paid $8,000 for the first movie. At the time, Scott was a complete unknown with no major credits, so Universal treated his role as expendable. Of course, after audiences fell in love with his wild antics, his salary skyrocketed in the sequels, reportedly into the millions. From $8,000 to franchise superstar, Stifler's story is proof that sometimes one outrageous character can change your career forever. One of the most unforgettable moments in American Pie is Nadia's webcam striptease, an awkward setup that accidentally gets broadcast to the entire school. But here's the thing: that scene almost didn't exist. In 1999, webcams were still new technology, and the studio worried audiences wouldn't understand it. They debated cutting it altogether. Instead, it became one of the film's most talked-about scenes, turning actress Shannon Elizabeth into a worldwide sex symbol overnight. Ironically, the technology that executives doubted became a clever way to capture teenage curiosity and embarrassment on screen, and made Nadia an instant pop culture icon. It's the line that became the catchphrase of a generation. This one time, at band camp. Every time Michelle opened her mouth, audiences roared with laughter. But unbelievably, that joke almost never made it into the movie. During early drafts, Michelle's character was written as quiet and forgettable, and the band camp storylines were nearly cut for pacing. It wasn't until Allison Hannigan delivered the lines with her quirky, innocent charm that the filmmakers realized they had struck comedy gold. What was once filler dialogue became the film's most quoted joke, and one of the main reasons Michelle became a fan favorite. If there's one character who perfectly balanced the outrageous teen comedy with heartwarming awkwardness, it was Jim's dad, played by Eugene Levy. What most fans don't know is that Levy actually improvised much of his dialogue. The filmmakers gave him a rough outline of the scenes, but trusted his natural comedic timing to carry the role. His nervous, stammering, cringy advice and painfully honest fatherly talks weren't fully scripted. They were Eugene Levy just being Eugene Levy. The result? one of the most beloved characters in the entire franchise. In fact, Levy was the only actor to appear in every single American Pie film, both main entries and spin-offs. For a movie that went on to define an entire era of teen comedy, American Pie was made on an incredibly tight schedule. The entire film was shot in just 6 weeks. That meant long days, rushed setups, and very little room for mistakes. The cast, many of whom were newcomers, had to nail their performances quickly without the luxury of endless takes. What's even crazier is that the rushed timeline actually worked in the film's favor. The frantic energy of the shoot bled into the performances, making the awkwardness and chaos on screen feel that much more authentic. 6 weeks, and a cult classic was born. For Jason Biggs, starring as Jim was both a blessing and a nightmare. While the role launched his career, it also required some of the most embarrassing scenes ever filmed in a mainstream teen comedy. Biggs admitted that shooting the nude scenes was extremely uncomfortable. In fact, to make him feel less humiliated, much of the crew actually cleared the set during filming, so only essential staff were present. Despite his nerves, Biggs powered through, and those very moments of genuine awkwardness became comedy gold. What was torture for the actor turned into iconic scenes that audiences still laugh about decades later. When American Pie hit theaters, Tara Reid, who played Vicky, quickly became one of Hollywood's most talked-about young stars.
And so, I'm there to
Her role in the film was relatively wholesome compared to some of her co-stars, but off-screen she became a tabloid favorite almost overnight. Magazines and paparazzi followed her every move, turning her into a party girl icon of the early 2000s. Unfortunately, the attention wasn't always positive. While American Pie launched her career, the intense media spotlight also made her a target of criticism and gossip. Reid's story is a reminder that sudden fame can be as overwhelming as it is glamorous. The outrageous antics of American Pie might feel larger than life, but they actually came from a very real place. Screenwriter Adam Hertz wrote the script based on his own high school experiences in Michigan. The awkward parties, the desperate attempts to lose virginity before graduation, and even the small-town dynamics were inspired by Hertz's teenage years. In fact, the school in the movie, East Great Falls, is a nod to East Grand Rapids High School, where Hertz actually studied. What started as a deeply personal, semi-embarrassing story ended up becoming a universal comedy that teenagers everywhere could relate to, no matter where they grew up. In the end, American Pie wasn't just about a group of teenagers chasing an outrageous goal. It was about the awkwardness of growing up, the chaos of friendship, and the moments that define youth, wrapped in the most ridiculous comedy Hollywood had ever dared to put on screen. From an $11 million gamble to a billion-dollar franchise, this film proved that even the silliest ideas can leave a lasting mark. And decades later, people are still quoting its jokes, humming its soundtrack, and laughing at Jim's disasters. But now, I want to hear from you. Which fact surprised you the most? Did you grow up watching American Pie, or did you discover it later? Drop a comment below, and let's keep the conversation going. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more untold stories from Hollywood.